All right, what is going on, everybody? So today I wanted to do a video that is a long time coming. I have hesitated to make this video for a long time because I didn't want to sound like a zealot of the vertical diet, but I've seen so much misinformation being put out, especially by now people who I hold to a high regard, who are very well educated, who have doctorate degrees and things like that, that I felt it was time to finally make a video. Basically, my frustrations come from one, the mass amount of videos that are not put out there by the person who created this diet, Stan Efferding, on YouTube, by the people who practice it. A lot of them have shortcomings. What I mean by that is a lot of them are not complying with the diet. A lot of them haven't actually read the diet. A lot of them haven't even read past the first page of the diet and are just going off what people have said. And some of them don't even know what the diet is, but are making comments on it. And that last one, I actually had saw some videos on people that I hold to a high regard who do have doctorate degrees commenting on the diet without ever even understanding what it is or doing any further research besides what someone had told them, which was really upsetting to me because as someone in that field who puts out a lot of great information, and I still respect, I think that it's irresponsible to be talking about something that you haven't done research on and you haven't actually ever tried yourself. Another reason for me wanting to do this video is that is kind of bridging off of that concept, the fact that the evidence-based community and the anecdotal experience community, we'll say it, or you can call it bro science, whatever you want, there's obviously a large gap. And what the bro science community is doing right is they are using experience and anecdote to sometimes make conclusions and apply things, which is great, but sometimes they tend to ignore evidence. And what the evidence-based community is doing sometimes is just using evidence. And people, especially who are in this community, are aware that there are large shortcomings in nutrition science and in training science, and that we can't conclude everything from these studies. I think now we are getting into a better place and a better realm where we're getting better at conducting this research. But there are shortcomings of a lot of these, especially epidemiology, and they are aware of that. But sometimes they still use those studies to draw conclusions. I believe that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. The reason why I like this program is because it is a combination of Stan's practical experience and his research he's done himself, and then also Damon McCune's practical experience, but also a lot of what he's done in the field, and as far as a lot of research that he's done himself. And he does have a PhD. So for me, this program met in the middle, where I had worked with coaches in the past who used only anecdote, and it fulfilled all the holes for me. And I don't want to make this video about myself. I want to talk more about the diet. But those were things that I was starting to see, and it's really frustrating because, like I said, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So basically, this video may be long. You'll notice that a lot of my videos are long. I try to be as thorough as possible, and sometimes it just takes a long time. And I understand that it's not going to really get my channel the most views or the most retention, but I just want to do my best to put good information out there, or the best possible information I can, as I am learning and as I'm getting better and trying to pass some of that on to whoever does watch these videos. Basically, I'm going to discuss the shortcomings of these other people who are making videos. I'm not going to name names. The people who do, hopefully if they do watch this video, they'll know who they are. Hopefully they do reach out to me and we can have a discussion. But I don't want to pull like a Greg Doucette where I'm trying to get tons of attention to my channel because I'm calling people out and trying to debate them and cause a bunch of controversy. If someone wants to come on and have a conversation, I would love to, and I would actually love to even maybe do a conversation for a YouTube video. But my goal is not to cause controversy. I want to have a conversation. I want people to get better, and I want to have move towards the truth more so. So anyway, I'm just going to discuss the shortcomings that I basically just went through, watched all the videos that exist out there that are about the vertical diet, about people doing them, and I just listed the shortcomings because just coming from my experience with doing it, I worked with Stan for a year. I did the diet for it's getting close to 2 years now. And I came from a background of anecdotal bodybuilding. And so I have a lot of experience. I also certified as a coach in the vertical diet. So I was able to ask them questions. I was able to get even more of a thorough understanding of what the vertical diet is about. And I also just wanted to mention that this video is not intended to be promotional of the vertical diet. I really just want to clear up my frustrations. I think, unfortunately, there is also just a lack of people complying and reading the diet, which is just a huge frustration of my mind. And with any named diet, with anything, the fact that people will make comments about it before they've actually tried it or even done any research is just embarrassing, to say the least. So that's basically a reason why I wanted to clear the air on a lot of the things that people are just simply missing. I understand that this video may come across as promotional, and it may make some people interested or disinterested in the diet. I could care less. I really do believe in it, and you'll see that across all of my videos, but that's not the intention of this video. The intention of this video is to kind of expose some of the fact that people aren't even reading the document, and that's apparent in some of these bullet points that I have. And then I also will mention that I am biased. Like I said, I've been doing the diet for close to 2 years now, and I do have financial incentive with the vertical diet. I receive commissions on vertical diet sales and on meals. And with that, I just wanted to say that I would never promote something that I didn't believe in. I do have people reach out to me on a daily and weekly basis on Instagram to promote their supplements and their clothing. I'm not going to pretend like these are super large companies. I'm still kind of getting my name out there, but I would never promote any of these companies because I don't believe in the products they sell. I don't take supplements. I don't take any of that crap. I have my own apparel, so I don't have any reason really to promote apparel for other people. So I would never sell anything I didn't fully believe in. So obviously you just got to trust me on that. But anyway, so I'm just going to go through the bullet points. I'm going to put them up on the screen as I talk about them, and just try to hash things out and talk about where I feel like some of these points that people are making in their videos are maybe not the most educated or enlightened or the best points to be making about this program. So let's start with, let's just say that the one of the first things that is stated in the actual vertical diet PDF is the best diet is the one you'll follow. Going off that, people believe that this diet is a set in stone. You can't do anything outside of it. You can't eat certain foods. Obviously, over my time of doing it, it's become a more modified diet. I've added in some things that I feel may be necessary. I do drink some coffee, and he doesn't necessarily recommend it in the program, but it's the best diet is the one you'll follow. But one thing I wanted to say is that people need to distinguish that before they are saying that the diet didn't work. People are saying that this diet isn't the best for this or for that, but they aren't distinguishing the fact that it's because the diet isn't necessarily, the way it's written isn't necessarily fitting for them and themselves. So I think they should distinguish that before they go on to say things like this is a shortcoming or this is a problem with the diet. This diet is written based on Stan's practical experience and knowledge, Damon's practical experience and knowledge, and what they feel is the best. And if you don't necessarily feel that's the best for you, then distinguish that before you say that this isn't going to work for anybody. Okay, so one of the things that I saw a doctor, someone who I hold in high regard and watch lots of videos, say that two of them actually said that this diet will cause micronutrient deficiencies. So I'm going to put the first part of the diet up on the screen. Literally the first page in the document, it has the vertical diet. What you see is what the vertical diet foundation is. It's just the horizontal axis and the vertical axis, and then all the foods below it and the red meat and rice above it. So someone saying that this diet causes micronutrient deficiencies is extremely short-sighted. I mean, you have to literally just look at the first page and you can see what the diet is trying to accomplish by the way it is structured. You have the horizontal axis, which has all of your foods that contain micronutrition. And then you have your vertical axis, which you are trying to build food volume with. If you are a performance athlete, or you are someone who's trying to gain or lose weight for competition, or just for general health. those are not the foundation of the diet. The foundation of the diet is micronutrition. It is not limiting certain foods. I've heard people say that it's limiting foods, and I'm trying to wrap my head around what food it's eliminating. The only one thing that he says that you should not be you should be avoiding altogether is vegetable oils and trans fats, which I think most people are pretty close on the consensus so that those things are not things you should be consuming anyway. Maybe less high FODMAP vegetables, maybe not as much broccoli, but you have spinach, you have bell peppers, you have carrots, you have vegetables in there. You have potatoes for potassium, you have eggs for choline and biotin, you have fruit for fructose and fiber, cranberry juice for iodine, yogurt for calcium. I mean, it's all there. It doesn't, the fact that people don't even look at the first page and they're making comments on the diet is extremely frustrating. So just look at the freaking first page. I mean, you can watch any of Stan's videos and get a pretty good understanding of what this diet's about. So these people are not watching the videos. They're not even looking at the first page of the diet. They're going off of maybe what someone said who's never even tried the diet. So please just look at the first page or watch a video of Stan talk about it. I mean, it's extremely embarrassing that people are even making comments about it. So I saw someone comment about the price point. The document is $100. So this is obviously pretty individual. If you feel uncomfortable sending that amount of money on an educational material, I'll just say that I'm someone who didn't choose to go to college. My girlfriend does go to college. I know people who go to college. You're spending upwards of, a couple $100 on a class, a couple $100 on a textbook. I'm just someone, I'm biased, but I'm someone who believes you cannot put a price on education. And you in this document, you have cumulative 30 years of Stan's experience, a cumulative of all of the current research and science that we can make assumptions and conclusions on, all referenced in this document. To me, it's invaluable. You cannot put a price on it. So $100 is nothing. I would pay probably even $300 if it were the price. I understand in comparison to some of the books that exist out there are $50, there's $75, whatever. But the fact that this is a living document, it constantly gets updated. When you buy a hardcover book, that is not updated. So it's a personal opinion there, but I would never, I've spent a lot of money on educational materials because education is, in my opinion, always has an ROI. Any educational material you buy, there's always a return on that investment that will pay you for the rest of your life. So obviously that is a personal preference, but something I believe in. The $100 price point, obviously, to me is not a big deal. That's up to you, but that's my opinion on it. I've seen people say that this is not a typical, or that this is a typical bodybuilding diet. Absolutely not true. I've come from typical bodybuilding diets. I've come from the broccoli, tilapia, chicken breast, low-fat diets, 2 hours of cardio diets, the overtrain your ass off 7 days a week, 2 hours in the gym, 2 hours of cardio, 4 hours in the gym total a day. I've come from that. That is what typical bodybuilding is doing most of the time right now, unfortunately. It's a proactive program. It is not a reactive program. Typical bodybuilding is reactive. Great example is if your thyroid becomes low, what happens is bodybuilding coaches throw thyroid hormone at you. They give you T3, they give you T4. In this diet, you are taking iodine to prevent to have to take that, or take as little as possible in a bodybuilding contest prep scenario. It is a proactive diet. We're trying to minimize micronutrient deficiencies before they become problematic health problems. So it is not a typical bodybuilding diet. There's steak in there. There's no fear of having fruit. There's no fear of having extra fats. There's no fear of having whole eggs. And this creates an environment where your body functions optimally. It is the peak performance program. It is where when you are your healthiest and you have the best nutrition, you function better, you perform better, you don't feel like shit all the time. So it is not a typical bodybuilding diet. That's why I stepped away from the typical traditional bodybuilding style diets, because I felt like shit all the time. My blood work was all, if you ever have done a blood panel, it says high, and it's all red. That's what my blood work looked like before this program. And I'll do that in a separate video. Like I said, I don't want to make this too much about myself, but it completely different, two different realms. One thing I wanted to mention too is it is unfortunate that this is a named diet, like it has the vertical diet name, because then it gets lumped into keto and carnivore and all these other things. Not that those things are necessarily bad, but people tend to associate them, especially in the evidence-based community, with not being good, or they tend to have zealots of them. Like I said, I'm not a zealot of this diet. If something came along tomorrow and I believed it would help me perform better and have more optimal health, then I would probably start to gravitate towards that thing. But I don't believe anything like that exists currently, and this is why I am trying my best to understand this diet and run with it and get some of that information out there. I think the diet should be named, if it were to even have a name, which I don't really, unfortunately it has to, but it would be the vertical diet, peak performance, and optimal health. Because that goes into my next point of the fact that this is, people assume that this diet is for athletes only, and people trying to be professional athletes and high up in sport. I'm going to put up all of the testimonials, and I'm going to show myself scrolling through the testimonials and the diet. But there's just so many people who have benefited from using this who are not athletes. And I guess the food volume concept of the diet is building up the red meat and the rice is definitely for people who are trying to gain muscle mass and generally athletes, but it doesn't have to be for the athletes. There are other people who want to gain muscle, other people who want to lose body fat and do it in a way that is productive, in a way that doesn't make them feel terrible and doesn't hurt their health in the process. So I think this diet is for optimal health. It is for people who are not bodybuilders. And it's very short-sighted to say that just because athletes and professionals are doing it, that other people aren't doing it. And you can see by a lot of these testimonials that people are getting success with it. Again, the best diet is the one you will follow, but a lot of people are finding this diet easy to follow and complying with it and feeling really great and improving health outcomes like blood pressure and getting off antacid medications, improving their sleep, their diabetes, things like that. So not for professional athletes. Okay, so another point, I've already mentioned this, but people who are commenting on this diet are not complying fully with the diet. So what I mean by that is that there are people who are like, yes, I tried the vertical diet and it didn't work for me. And then they go on to be like, yeah, and I was only sleeping 3 hours a night. And I'm like, literally the first section in the diet is about sleep. So you just skipped a whole section of the diet and then said it didn't work for you. A very vital part of the program. And so there are people who are doing things like that. There are people out there who are literally just eating red meat and rice for 6 meals a day and saying they're doing the vertical diet. Extremely short-sighted, and that's where I've seen a lot of the comments from coaches and other things. They think that it's literally just that, without actually looking into it, and it's just really, you have to, like, I would say I did it for over close to 2 years with very little deviation, almost close to 100%, what I would call 100% compliance, meaning that very little cheat foods. I did have some. I was sleeping with my CPAP, which you can see up on the wall right there is hanging. I was doing my 10-minute walks 3 times a day. I was eating specifically what is programmed into my diet, all of the foods that are listed in the program. I was following the training program listed in there. Literally everything that I could possibly comply with to my best ability, I was complying with. And some of these people give it 3 months, 2 months, a month with maybe like a 40, 30, 20% compliance and say the diet is shit. So do the fucking buckle down, stop eating shit food, get good sleep, actually read the diet, and then come back, and then I would love to hear your comments about it. I would love to see your blood work. I would love to talk about it after that. But stop making fucking comments when you haven't even complied with the diet or even read it. Like I just mentioned, the overconsumption of steak and rice is a problem. People believe that this diet is just steak and rice. Again, I don't know where they're getting that information from maybe through the grapevine. So I literally watched a video of someone like, I did the vertical diet for a day, and they literally just had ground beef and rice, no vegetables, no fruit, no nothing for a day. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's literally not what the diet is about. And then on the opposite of that, I've seen people only eating the horizontal portion of the diet. So only eating the spinach, bell peppers, but over consuming those foods and saying it caused digestive distress. Those horizontal foods, they're on the horizontal axis because they are not meant to be built in volume. They are meant to have certain doses of them to get the micronutrition from them, and then you build your volume from the rice and the steak. So when you're eating 3 cups of yogurt a day and you're like, my stomach hurts, no shit. You're eating 4, 5, 6 potatoes a day and your stomach hurts, no shit. So, like I said, just read the document. I also saw someone who had never tried the diet saying that the red meat slows down digestion. Anybody who has actually complied with the diet understands that this diet makes you pretty hungry. Once 2-3 hours roll around, you're ready to eat again. If you're complying with the walks and you're getting the fructose in and you're eating mostly the white rice and things like that, yes, red meat may digest a little bit slower because it does have some fat, but it's not going to be bogging you down. The problem with that is another bullet point I'll put up on the screen, is that people are picking too fatty cuts of red meat. They're doing 80-20 and below, even fattier than that. This diet doesn't recommend anything below like 85-15 in most cases. And most of the health research that is linked is talking about lean cuts of red meat. I think you may run into health problems when you are using really fatty cuts of beef. I'm not even going to get into the rabbit hole of how people believe red meat's bad for you. I mean, I think the scientific consensus is pretty much out there. You can pretty much read anywhere if you are actually looking at legitimate evidence-based sources that red meat is not bad for you, especially lean red meat. But when you're getting into fattier cuts, definitely I think can have some detriments to your health. So stop getting 80-20, get 85-15 or leaner, try to bring your fats down a little bit, and then that's where this diet is actually placed. Another one I saw by evidence-based coaches, this is actually just a problem with the evidence-based community, is that they are using biological food ranking to rank protein sources. So I've seen coaches, people that I like and I think put out good information, putting out saying that mass gainer shakes are great in an off season. Obviously, that is complete opposite of what this diet is stating, because this diet is stating eat whole foods. Shakes are for fakes, eat steaks is one of the quotes out of the diet. And it's like, protein shakes have very little micronutrition. Yes, they have a great bioavailability as far as protein, but the biological food ranking scale only measures nitrogen uptake and secretion. Only nitrogen uptake and secretion. So yes, digestibility and how much protein you're actually utilizing, but it is not measuring micronutrition. There has been a study to show that whole eggs increase strength and muscle mass better than an egg white by itself. And it would be really short-sighted to say that whey protein, egg whites, these chicken breasts better than red meat and whole eggs, because those foods, the whey protein and the chicken, they lack micronutrition. So it's very short-sighted. I don't know if there's a ranking system for also micronutrition, but that's something that we should be looking at, because when you are pushing your food and you have a lack of micronutrition, that's when dysfunction happens. That's where I think you set yourself up for metabolic dysfunction, and you set yourself up for a lot of problems. And that's why these bodybuilders are taking 300 health pills to try to remedy stuff, because they don't have those foundations in their diet. So yeah, that's another problem I see in the evidence-based community. Someone I saw, one of the most popular videos on there said this diet is not for cutting. And then he goes on to argue that less nutrient-dense foods will fill you up more, but then provides no suggestions on what those foods are or examples of what those foods are. I was trying to think about it. I mean, does a whey protein shake and peanut butter fill you up more than a steak and potato? It absolutely doesn't for myself, so I don't know what's going on with you, but that absolutely is, I don't know, I think it's just BS. I mean, maybe if you're eating a lot of broccoli, but then you run into digestive issues. I mean, I think part of the reason why distension exists in bodybuilding is because a lot of these people are eating these high FODMAP, high raffinose vegetables that are causing bloating and distension that maybe fill you up a little bit more. But the argument again there is this also is called the peak performance program. Why eat a bunch of micronutrient deficient foods to try to be full so you can look cut? You're gonna not look as good when you eat these foods that don't have micronutrition. And I'm sorry, the evidence-based community will argue against that with the if it fits your macros argument, but I have yet to see an if it fits your macros competitor who looks better than someone who diets on highly bioavailable, nutrient-dense foods. Even the people who diet on just clean eating foods tend to look better than if it fits your macros people who get away with eating 100 grams of sugar in a prep. I'm sorry, that's just anecdote, but it's there. You can literally look at any of those guys, and I have yet to see. I mean, Does anybody in the top 10 Olympia do if it fits your macros? There's your answer. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, if you could provide some examples on what foods that fill you up more. I did this diet for cutting. I was fine. I mean, I actually was probably the least hungry that I've ever been because we weren't doing 2 hours of cardio and I was eating steak and potato, which I find very satiating. Whole leg I find very satiating. I don't know, man. And then this gentleman also, not going to name him, but like I said, if you want to have a conversation, I'm more than willing to. He said it caused his cholesterol to crash. This is, when you're looking at health and you're looking at health markers, it's rarely ever a single source problem. It's usually multifactorial. Basically, this gentleman pulled up his blood work, his lipid panel, and was complaining that it got worse when he was on the diet. But then he also went on to state that he was on hormone replacement therapy. Didn't disclose any of the drugs he was taking. So obviously HRT will hurt your lipids. It will hurt your total triglycerides. It'll hurt your HDL and possibly your LDL as well. Also, he didn't disclose if he's using Arimidex or any AIs or any SERMs, anti-estrogens, which will also hurt your HDL. This gentleman has done videos in the past talking about using finasteride, which I'm not going to say that I know this, but I've heard that it also does affect your HDL panel. Winstrol affects your HDL panel. Trenbolone affects your HDL panel. People who have, this gentleman's also used SARMs in the past, and I don't know if he was at the time, but SARMs affect your HDL. He was not disclosing all of the things that he was taking, so it's very short-sighted, but also HRT and other types of those drugs and AIs, if he was even just taking the bare minimum, are going to affect your HDL. So it's extremely short-sighted to say that the diet was causing this. He went on to say that he was eating eggs and he thought the eggs caused it. He removed the eggs and then his cholesterol went down. But this is not a clinical setting. He is not a researcher. So that is, we can only take that as correlation, not causation. I myself, I will do a video in the future. Like I said, I want to keep it separate on my blood work and on my calcium score and all this stuff. But I take those hormones and I've had trouble bringing my HDL up in the past. Before I've done the vertical diet, it's something I've been trying to remedy over the years, and I've had some success doing so. But it is not a cause of the vertical diet. It is completely separate, and I think it's more affected by the hormones I'm taking. Also, another thing I'd like to mention is that your lipid panel. This gentleman was very focused on his lipids, but your lipid panel is not the best determiner of your cardiovascular health. Your lipid panel, in ratios, your HDL to your LDL and your total triglycerides, plus your C-reactive protein, plus homocysteine, plus your blood pressure, plus your calcium score is going to tell you much more about your cardiovascular health than your HDL will by itself. And unfortunately, your HDL being lowered is just a name of the game. So if you want your HDL to be perfect all the time, then get off HRT. But don't go on to say that eggs were the cause, because there are many people who ate a dozen plus eggs a day and have amazing cholesterol, and sometimes they're not taking those hormones to affect their cholesterol. So I would say before putting that type of information out there, weigh out all of the potential causes for your condition before saying that it is one thing that is probably just correlation, not causation. One gentleman who had never done the diet was saying, and this is, I get this maybe because it was from the 2.0, the 3.0 has hundreds of references, but this gentleman was saying that this information was, he was saying this guy only pulls the information from Ray Peat, and Ray Peat has said some stuff in the past that, you know, is controversial and doesn't support it by science. One thing I'd like to say is that just because someone says something or has some beliefs that you may not agree with or are not supported by science does not mean that they're not true, and doesn't mean that everything that they say is not true. Most people who are well educated have pulled from multiple sources, from multiple people, and they don't agree with everything that people say. I would say that most of the information I have, I don't agree 100% with everything that someone says. And I've seen some people with doctor degrees and PhDs say some outlandish shit that I'm like, how do you even have a degree? But then they also do have some good points, and it would be stupid to attack someone's character and just disregard everything else they say. Once you start attacking someone's character, you start to disregard everything they say and you demonize that person. Everything they say is bad. But everybody has something to offer, and everybody has their experiences and their knowledge that they have obtained from either research. So it is really short-sighted to write someone off and to demonize them, and I hate to see that happen. But this gentleman was saying a lot of the information and conclusions were coming from Ray Peat, and if you look at the Vertical 3.0, Ray Peat is mentioned a couple times, but there are just hundreds of other references from other people. So very short-sighted. This gentleman had never even done the diet, so obviously he didn't really read it either and didn't understand that. One more, another thing, 10-minute walks are not for fat loss. They are. That's just an added benefit. Obviously, the 10-minute walks are for blood glucose control, and they're for lowering your blood sugars and nutrient partitioning, but they also do have a benefit. They are more effective than doing a 30-minute bout of cardio, as shown in the research and linked in the diet. I was able to sustain weight loss by doing the 3 10-minute walks and keeping my daily energy expenditure up by keeping my NEAT up by doing the walks. If you understand how calorie burn works, very little of your calories come from cardio, from HIIT. Very little of your calories burned come from exercising with weights and doing the stairs and things like that. So the walks are just a way to keep your NEAT up, to keep your daily calorie burn up, and that's all I did when I was dieting on the vertical diet with Stan as my coach, and it was extremely effective for fat loss. So, or at least a tool and aid of fat loss. So I don't think that is true. I mean, there's many other things I could say here. This video is getting kind of long, but I just encourage people to, before you comment on anything, not just this, make sure you do the research. I really hate to see researchers like, for example, bash like the carnivore diet, just based on the research we have, without ever trying it. If you have no desire to ever try it, mention that when you go to make assumptions about those things. I've seen people use healthy user bias studies to battle people in the carnivore diet community, and I think there is some merit there, and I don't think that using just studies alone is going to bring you to the truth. I think there needs to be anecdote and experience, and there needs to be research, and the truth is in the middle. If research gets better and better to the point where we can make solid conclusions about single studies, then maybe we can rely solely on research. But we are not there yet as a society, as a community. So we need to somewhere meet in the middle. Anecdote is how these studies are even brought about, because we see something that we observe in the field and then we do research on it. So I think we need to meet in the middle more. We need to have more conversations. We need to actually read things before we talk about them. We need to actually comply with things before we disregard them and call them bad, or demonize them and to completely disregard them. And then we need to take things for what they are. This is a great program. Like I said, for optimal health, for performance, it has tons of references. It is not the end-all be-all. It is not something to be a zealot of and say that it's the only thing in the world that's going to cause fat loss and it's magical and it does magical things. It is a absolutely amazing built program. Stan and Damon and anybody else associated did an amazing job. That's why I support it. That's why I do promote it, and that's why I do it myself. But I have also complied with it perfectly, and I've done a lot of the research to understand it before I've even made this video. And I was also just, it was hard for me to make this video because I didn't want to come across as a zealot. But I just want you all to know that just do your research, try things, comply with things for a period of time, longer than 2-3 months, before you start making comments on it. And I think we'll all get to a better place if we do that and do our research. So anyway, I hope this video helps you out. I hope you guys get the opportunity to try out this specific diet. It's been amazing for myself, even just taking things from the videos Stan makes, taking little things out of the diet. Like if you just literally took the sleep portion and you just did that, probably would impact your health in a really positive way and your life in a positive way. So, you know, if you get the opportunity to purchase it and try it, I think it would be amazing for you. Again, I don't want to be promotional, but just try try things before you make comments about them, and actually research things before you make comments about them. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too long. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the subscribe button. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, please tell me why you didn't enjoy it. Let's have a conversation. Anyway, you all have a great day. Thanks for watching my channel. I'll talk to you soon.